Hi everyone. With Easter around the corner, I've been looking at different patterns, different projects that can be completed for Easter that can be given as gifts or created to sell in your own shops. And I've decided that I wanted to do these comforter blankets. They're quite small. You see my hand space. And I'm going to complete them in a variety of colours and patterns, but the bunny at the top, the bunny head and ears, will be the same for each project, and then I will show you how to create the different patterns for the comforter depending on what you prefer. This one's a granny square, and this one I call candy stripe, and there's going to be a few others that I will do separate videos for. Okay, for this project you will need your choice of yarn. I have gone for a Knitcraft Baby Brilliance in white, which has a sparkle, and this will be for my head and ears. I have also then chosen a Women's Institute Soft and Cuddly, and this colour is Striped Pastel Mix, and this will be for the blanket part of my pattern. You will also need 2 crochet hooks. I have chosen a 3.5 for the head and ears. I crochet quite tightly, which is why I've gone for 3.5. If you notice that you have some extra holes in your head and ears when you're doing them, change to a 3mm to make it a closer stitch, because we will be stuffing it and you need to make sure that there's no holes. And then for the base I have gone for a 4mm. Again, I'm a tight crocheter, so you might want to go for a 4.5. You will need a pair of scissors and a sewing needle to sew in your ends. You will also need some toy stuffing, and I use, if you can see this on the camera, a Hobbycrafts soft toy filling, and this will be to stuff your head. You will also need a choice of fabric if you decide that you would like your ears with a fabric inside, and obviously you can use any fabric. Cotton is the best, and you'll need to match it with your blanket. Obviously you don't need to put the fabric on, but I find that it's a nice finish. You'll also need some safety eyes. These are the ones that have a backing to, so when you insert them you can clip them closed and they are locked in place. They're nice and safe. Okay, to begin you will need to create a magic ring. Now you can use a chain of 2 and insert your stitches into the first chain, but I highly recommend that you work with the magic ring in this method, because it will make sure that there are no holes for the stuffing to come out. So to create a magic ring, wrap the yarn around your fingers as if you're going in for a slip stitch or slip knot at the beginning. Don't close your hole, and then we're going to chain 1 to keep the circle. Then we're going to create 6 single crochets in the US, 6 double crochets in the UK into that circle. So yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through both loops. In the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through both loops. We need 6 of those. That's 2, 3, just going to pull this a bit tighter, 4, 5, 6. Now with this project we're going to be working in rounds, so we won't have a end or a start of a row, so a stitch marker is also recommended, especially if you've got lots of noise going on, and otherwise you'll be counting. So then we're going to insert our hook into the top of the first stitch we created, and we're going to start the second row round. So pull this tight, the cord, so that you close the hole. We will be doing it a bit tighter later on, so don't worry for now. So we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, then we're going to yarn over and go through both for a double crochet again, single in the US, That's one, and in the same stitch we're going to create another double crochet. And then in each stitch around we're going to do the same, so we need 12. So that's 2, 3, same stitch, a second one, 4, next stitch, 5, 6, next stitch, 7, 8, next stitch, 9, 10, next stitch is the last 2, 11, 12. Now this base of the head is the start of a flat circle, so if you're an experienced crocheter you can carry on. Next we're going to do 18 stitches, double crochets, single in the US, then we'll do 24, then we'll do 30, and then we'll do 36. So if you're an experienced crocheter you may just want to carry on and do those now. So the third round will be increasing again until we get 18 stitches. So we're going to do 1 double crochet in the next, 2 in the one after, that's 3, then 1 in the next, 4, 2 in the next, 5, 6, 1 in the next, 7, 2 in the next, 8, 9, 1 in the next, 10, 2 in the next, 11, 12, 1 in the next, 13, 2 in the next, 14, 15, 1 in the next, 16, and 2 in the next one, 17, 18. Now in the next row, as I said, we're going to be increasing 6 again, so we're going to end up with 24 stitches. So in the next 2 stitches we're going to do 1 double crochet, that's a single crochet in the US, and then we'll follow by a 2, a single, 2, a single, 2, and we need to end up with 24 stitches. So you can add a stitch count after you've done the first one so you know where you are, or I will count as I go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, almost there, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay, now the next one we increase 6 again, so we're going to go to 30. So in this one we're going to do 3 singles, that's 3 single double crochets in the UK, 3 single crochets in the US, followed by 2, 3 individual, followed by 2, 3 individual, followed by 2, and we need to end up with 30 stitches. So if you complete that, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so I've completed that, and next we're going to increase again by 6, and we're going to end up with 36 stitches. So we need to do 4 double crochets, that's 4 single in the US, followed by 2 in the same stitch, 4 followed by 2 in the same stitch, and we'll end up with a count of 36 on our round. Again, use a stitch marker if you think you might lose count, because you really don't want to unravel as you... Okay, so after that round we will have 36 stitches. And the next round we're going to increase by 6 again, so we're going to end up with 42 stitches. So that requires 5 double crochets followed by 2. Remember, in the US that's 5 single crochets followed by 2 in the same stitch, and we're going to do that all the way around. To start off, I'm going to do 1, next one, 1, next one, 1, next one, 1, that's 4, next one, 1, and then the next one we're going to do 2. And that's 7 stitches. So keep going all the way round, and as I say, add a stitch marker if you think you're going to lose your place. 5, 2, 5, 2, and we're going to end up with 42. Okay, so we've now done 7 rounds and we've got 42 stitches. We're going to do one more increase round, and in this round we're not going to do a flat circle, we're going to start curving it around. And so for this one we're going to do 13 double crochets followed by 2, 13 double crochets followed by 2, and 13 double crochets followed by 2. Remember, in the US this is single crochet, so we're going to do 3 times 13 and then a 2, and we're going to end up with 45 stitches. So this is highly recommended for a stitch marker if you've got distractions around your house, because you will lose count. Okay, so do 13 double crochets, single in the US, followed by a stitch with 2 in. 13, 2, 13 and 2, and I'll meet you back in. Okay, so we've just completed the last round, and that would leave us with 45 stitches, and we're going to do a few standard rounds and not increase. But before we do that, as we've got a nice flat space, I'm going to sew in the centre where we did a magic ring, and this is to stop it unravelling. I'm going to snip off the end as I've made it a little fluffy. Take my sewing needle, and what I like to do is go back through the same stitches that we've created, but you miss the first one, otherwise you'll be just undoing it. So go through the next 2 stitches. It's generally a bit tight, and then I do it again through the next 2 stitches, and once more. I'm going to leave that tail because I'll just, in the end we're going to be stuffing this, so it will be hidden anyway. So we're going to do 6 standard rounds where we're not going to increase at all. So I've got my stitch marker ready, because this is normally when I get distracted and somebody asks me questions or somebody wants a drink and I will lose my way. So we're going to do 45 double crochets in the round, and we're going to do that 6 times. So I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop and go through both, and we're going to do that 45 stitches per round, and we're going to do it 6 times. So insert my stitch marker on the first stitch I created of the round, so I know when I get back here. So if you do the same, and I'll meet you back here after 6 rounds of 45 double crochets. That's 45 single crochet. Okay, so we just finished that row. That's a non-increase row, and we will have done the 6 non-increases, 14 rows in total, and you'll end up with a little cup. Now we're going to insert the eyes, but before we do that I just wanted to have a chat with you about the shape of the head. Now there's so many different ways and shapes that you can create for your head. I prefer this one which I'm teaching you now, but you could make a slower increase of the head, and in between each increase row do a row of non-increase, and it will create a steadier curve which will make a longer head. And then at the bottom you could do what I've just done, which will make a shorter, faster finish to it, but you'll end up with a much bigger head. You could also continue on and do a few more rows of non-increase, which will make a larger head, which I did on one of my bunnies. which is this one. It makes a much larger head, but I do prefer this smaller one that I'm going to be showing you now. The other big thing is the position of the eyes. Obviously you could put them wherever you want depending on the look that you would like for your bunny. This one I have created and I've left 7 spaces between the eyes, 7 stitches, and I've done it on row 11 and 12, and this one is exactly the same. I've left 7 spaces between the eyes and I've done it on 11 and 12. You can see the different size in the heads. I much prefer this smaller one for these blankets. I think it looks cuter. So let's insert the eyes. You need the safety ones. Alternatively, if you're not going to use a safety eyes, you could embroider the eyes on like you do with the mouth, but it's entirely up to you. So we've got 14 rows, 14, 13, 12. So between these two I need to insert my eyes. We insert it anywhere because it's the same all the way around. And I want to leave 7 visible spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Insert the next eye. There we go. And on the inside I'm going to insert these caps. And there's the safety eyes in place. Now we're going to start our decreases. Now if you're an experienced crocheter, you can just carry on and repeat what we've just done but in reverse. So we're going to start off with 13 double crochets, that's single in the US, followed by stitching 2 together, and we need to do that 3 times so we end up with 42 stitches again. So to begin, insert your hook. We're going to do 13 double crochets, that's 3, and I'm going to insert my stitch marker so I know where I come back to. This is really where you can start losing your place. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, probably much quicker than me, leaning over an iPad again, 10, 11, that's 13 stitches, and then we're going to stitch 2 together. So insert your hook and pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Insert your hook into the next stitch and pull up a loop. 3 loops on your hook, going to yarn over and go through all 3. We're going to do that 3 times, so we're going to do again 13 stitches, and then we're going to do 2 together. Insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops, yarn over and pull through all 3. Now I've got one more lot of 13, and do those and then 2 together and I'll meet you. Okay, so we've just finished row 15, which is a decrease with 13 followed by 2 together, 13 followed by 2 together, and a final 13 followed by 2 together, and you will end up with 42 stitches. Now, as saving an experienced crocheter, we're just going to be doing a standard decrease now. So each row will be decreasing as we go. So the next one will be 36 stitches, and that will be 5 double crochets, single in the US, followed by 2 together, 5 followed by 2 together, 5 followed by 2 together. and we'd carry on until we get 36 stitches, and then we're going to go down to 30, 24, 18 and keep going. So it's reducing 6 like we did at the start, increasing 6. We're going to reduce 6 each row. So let's begin. I'm going to do 5 double crochets. Oh, I'm losing my stitch now. I'm going to insert my stitch marker now, 5 stitches back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Insert my stitch marker so I don't lose my place. And then we're going to do 2 together. Insert hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. Insert your hook into the next space, yarn over and pull up a loop, and go through all 3. So again, we're going to do 5 double crochets followed by 2 together, 5 double crochets followed by 2 together, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so we've just finished that row of 5 and 2 together, and the next row we're going to do 4 individual double crochets followed by 2 together, 4 followed by 2 together, all the way around. Remember, in the US this is single. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to insert my stitch marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, so I don't lose my space, and followed by 2 together. I'm going to do that all the way around, and so we end up with 30 stitches, and I'll meet back here. Okay, so we've just finished that row. Slurring my words today. I'm not feeling 100% with my ME, but I've had this idea in the back of my head for a while, so I'm just going to crack on with it. So we've got 30 stitches, and we're going to now reduce down to 24, again a decrease of 6. So we're going to do 3 individual double crochets, single in the US, and decrease 2 together. So we're going to do 3, reduce by 2, 3, reduce by 2, and we're going to end up with a stitch count of 24. So 1, 2, 3, and then 2 together. I'm going to insert my stitch count 4 stitches back at the start of the row so I don't lose my place. The brain fog is starting, so I need to keep track of where I am. Okay, so complete that all the way around, so you end up with a stitch count of 24. That's 3 individual followed by 2 together all the way. Okay, so we've just finished that, and we've ended up with a stitch count of 24. Again, we're going to go decrease by 6, and so we're going to do 2 double crochets, single in the US, and 2 together, 2 individual, 2 together, and we're going to do that all the way around, and we're going to end up with a stitch count of 18. So insert your hook, yarn over and pull through, next stitch, and then we're going to do 2 together. So insert your hook, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through, and go through. Oh, I lost that then. So we're going to do the 2 together. There we go, and do that all the way around. I'm going to insert my stitch marker again, 3 stitches back so I know where I am, and I meet back here. Okay, so we've just finished that, and we should have a stitch count of 18. And what we're going to do now is stuff our head, because the last rows are going to be a little bit small to get your finger inside. So take your toy stuff in and just stuff it inside. Obviously this is personal preference. You can make a squidgier, softer head to your bunny by not filling it too much, and make a firmer head by stuffing it quite tightly. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for now, and I'm going to be able to add a little bit more if you'd added your stitch marker before you'd done this, you wouldn't have lost your last stitch. There we go. Okay, so this is our last row of decrease, and we're going to end up with 12 stitches. So if you're an experienced crocheter, you'll know that next it is 1 double crochet, single in the US, followed by 2 together, and we're going to do that all the way around, and we're going to end up with 12 stitches. So if you do that and then meet me back here, and I'll show you the last few rows. So 1 followed by 2 together, and do that all the way. Okay, so we've just finished that last decrease row, and we'll end up with 12 stitches, and the final 2 rows are 2 rows of 12 stitches. So we're just going to insert our hook, and you see I've done it quite tightly, so it's a little bit tricky, and we're going to do our double crochets, single in the US, around twice. So 24 stitches if you just want to go round, 12 stitches by 12 stitches, and that's the final 2 rows. So if you go ahead and do those, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so I've just completed my 2 rows of 12 double crochets, single in the US. I'm going to insert my stitch marker into the last stitch. You can see how tightly I crochet. You can see the line from my finger. So that is the end of our head. The last 2 stitches are our neck. I'm going to stuff a little bit more, and what I find is I use a pair of scissors and it goes in much easier than using my finger. Just keep stabbing. It seems a bit cruel stabbing a bunny. Use my finger to finish it off. Stuff the head. So I like my bunnies to be quite firm. See what I mean about stuffing your head after you have 18 stitches rather than the 12. It will make it so much easier, but I hadn't quite stuffed mine enough. And that is the end of the head. Is our cute little bunny head. Now I'm going to do some separate videos on the ears because we're going to create 2, and then we're going to use the fabric, so I'll show you how to do that. And it might seem odd, you'll see that lots of other patterns will seal off the head and do the blanket separately. Now this is the trick that I had, is that we will continue straight away with our different blanket patterns, and I'm going to create some instructions for each type of blanket pattern as I create them. As you will see, I've created a granny square pattern, and we've continued on from the 12 stitches, and I've also created this candy stripe one, and I will do some separate videos on how to start these. So I'll meet you back here. It's actually going to be another day for me, as my brain fog has really kicked off, and I want to be with it to be able to explain how to do these sections of the pattern. So please follow the link, go through part 2 of this pattern, and I hope you found this. Okay, so we will have the head completed, and we finished with the white yarn. What we're going to do now is join in our other colour. So we're going to undo the last stitch, so we've got 2 loops on the hook, it's a bit fiddlier, and then before closing it off, we're not going to use the white. Going to join in the colour that you've chosen by wrapping the yarn over the hook and pulling it through to complete the stitch. And then we're going to start on the base, the blanket part of the project. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the background colour so it's easier to show up on the camera.